All right. What is the rate in which people are able to reduce their oxalate dosage? This is a tough question, but we're going to talk about this one. So on this question I'm wondering how long it can take people to cut their dose from, say, 300 to even 250 milligrams, and then eventually to the true low range, which is like 40 to 60. And the question goes on to say, I hear people say they can experience dumping years later. You can. We'll talk more about that. But I haven't heard anecdotes regarding the rate in which dosage was reduced to reach the low ox diet phase in the first place. And the person goes on to say, Sally Norton's book says you can cut dose by 10% weekly. So the original 10% was, I think, a first stab at trying to make some guidelines, and it might have been me. So this is quite some time ago. So Sally's taken that information from the Triangle Oxalates group. I originally suggested that because people were just nosediving, and I thought, well, 8 weeks is not bad because I personally was a nosediver. Okay. I went from probably 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams, depended on the day and how much almonds I'd eaten. God love me. And just went low as fast as I could go. And while we did okay here, I wouldn't recommend it. And I did have a couple of times when I bounced into ER. So we've got to slow people down. And actually, the original idea was 10% a week unless you started to dump, then hold there. So some of the nuance was lost even from the original discussion. And then don't start again until the dump clears, and then go down another 10%, blah, blah, blah. We really saw that probably 5 to 6 months was more the real speed at which you might be able to get down to a low oxalate diet. That said, not a one size fits all, not how I would do it now after so many more years of working on the field. Some people can take a big jump down initially, but then we have to get more nuance. So we're in the process right now between myself, Carla Wiersma, and Patricia de la Garza. We're the nutrition wizards, if you will. We're looking at an approach which sort of treats the food like a parabolic curve. So initially you might be able to drop a fair bit, but then you do not want to come in hot. You want to smooth out and come in more slowly. And that's where it can get kind of tricky because you can get hung up at certain levels where your body can't go as quickly down as you might expect. I had one client who dropped 10 milligrams a day for over a year because she started at over 3,000 milligrams a day of intake. That takes a phenomenal amount of discipline, which she had, but she was also willing to eat the same thing day after day and count meticulously. I don't actually recommend that either. I think you can go too fast. I think you can go so slow that maybe you're not really seeing the benefits you could see from the diet. But the problem is there's the average to get where you want to go, and then there's the exceptions. So I'd say the average, I would say the majority of the people that I work with in about 6 months can be from where they're starting at a more low oxalate diet. Now, not everybody, but maybe at least half of my clients can do that. There are many of my clients I put on what I call a wave approach, though, so that they have a higher oxalate day, medium, low, high, medium, low, so that we keep their body paying attention so that the body doesn't just go, oh, look, it's coming in at this rate all the time. So that means I can just start pushing oxalate out because this is the predicted amount of oxalate coming in. So your body will kind of work with, I'm going to say, patterns that you show to it. And so if we're making oxalate go up and down like this, then the body has to pay attention to what's in the digestive tract, because as oxalate moves out of the digestive tract and into the bloodstream, that's going to signal, oh yeah, we've got too much oxalate coming in at the moment. We can't just keep pushing it out. So we work with some of that, but the challenge with that particular tool is it's only going to work for so long. So I remember trying to up my oxalate to stop a dump after I'd been probably fully low oxalate for just over a year. My body didn't play at all. So you can get to a point where, as far as your body's concerned, it has recognized that low oxalate is where it wants to be. And if you give it extra oxalate, it just have more to dump all at the same time. So there's things that we're still learning. I would love to get a researcher interested in some of these phenomena so that we could do more research on it. But at the moment, we're still working with the anecdotes. But the more we we see on the triangle oxalates group of people who need to go slow to get to the low, the more I think we can probably cut fairly quickly on this part of the parabolic curve. But then once we start doing this, we might have a much slower process than we thought. And for sure, I think people need to be patient with that because your body's doing a lot of work that we just don't see on the surface. It's under the hood, right? So we think, oh yeah, I've been doing this for a while. It should be okay. All I can tell you is that dumping is not something over which we have a lot of control. And the speed at which your body's ready to take the next drop down is also not a thing that we seem to have as much control over as I'd like. We might be able to do some things with supplements, but how fast you can get down is really going to be governed by your metabolism and how fast it can do that work.